All right. Omakani, everyone. Hello from Nisenan Maidu territory in the northern Sierra foothills of beautiful California. It's my great pleasure to introduce Eugene and Erin. Tapahe, did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Excellent. Please take a moment and introduce yourselves, and then I'll have everyone else who's on the call introduce themselves as well. And then I'd like to show the video that you all produced from your website, and then jump into the Q&A if that sounds agreeable to you.
Sounds good. My name is Eugene Chapahi. I'm Navajo from Windrock, Arizona. And we reside right now in Provo, Utah. And we are here. We're grateful that we are able to be here at this time. And I'll let Erin introduce herself.
Yeah, my name is Erin Tapahe. I am really happy to be here. I'm one of the dancers in the Art Hills, the Jingle project. And so it's exciting. We're excited to be here.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to host you. I have some questions for you, but I'd like to show the video of your travels before we begin. So let me get that queued up for us. Let me know when y'all can see it. All right, you guys should be able to see the screen now. All there? Do y'all see the Art Heals Jingle Dress Dance Project?
Yes.
All right. I hope we can hear the audio. Let me know if you can. All right, there it is. What a beautiful video. All right, we're going to jump right into the questions. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat also. And is it okay if we ask questions that I hadn't sent you in advance? Would people ask in the chat?
Yeah, that'll be fine. We're good with it.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's see here. For our first question, you say on your website that the project began with a dream that you had. When did you have that dream, and how long was it from when you had it to when you embarked on the project?
Well, as you know, this is like coming up the anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic here in March. In fact, this weekend is actually the Herd Museum Indian Market. And last year it was at this weekend also. That was like one of the last markets that we had last year that was in person. And this year it's virtual. So this weekend it's a virtual market. But we had just received an award at the Herd Museum last year, and we were so excited. And one of my pieces won and stuff, and so we were excited. And then this last year we were invited to a lot of or not really invited, but we were juried into other art shows that we hadn't been juried into before. And so last year was looking like we were going to have a really great year as far as being able to be in art shows and things like that. And then the pandemic hit after the Herd Museum show. And then, from there, everything just kind of snowballed and everything went downhill. We all had to quarantine and, businesses closed down. And we kind of thought, oh, this will be okay. For a month, we'll do this and everything will be better. A month became 2 months, and things just started getting worse and worse. And so along the way, the art shows all started canceling. And so it kind of got really, really dismal in the sense of my outlook of where I was going to do throughout the year. And for me as an artist, those art shows are my, it's my income. And so it was really getting worrisome on me on what we were going to do. And then in late May, the last matriarch in my family on my side is my aunt, my mom's sister got COVID, and she passed away. She actually it was really hard on us because it hit home. And the thing that really was disappointing about the whole thing is that as Navajo people, we traditionally bury our family members within 4 days. And because it was COVID and everything was so it was just so new, they didn't know what really, any kind of regulations or anything. But at the time she did pass away alone because they didn't want anybody else, to get the virus. But weren't able to bury her for, a few weeks after she passed away. And then when we did get to bury her, we actually had, they only allowed 6 family members to come to the burial. And so it was really hard on us to have these guidelines. And I think the one thing that really hurt us the most was that we could not bury her in our family burial plot. She had to be buried with all the other COVID victims. And so, after that, we just kind of, it kind of just, got really, really hard on not just myself, but my daughters, because they had plans through the summer too and everything. And so When I came home from my aunt's burial, I just, you know, I just didn't feel really good about what was happening. And then I went to sleep, and that's when the dream came to me. I was just sitting in a field of green grass in Yellowstone. That's kind of where my family and I we find peace there, and it's a good retreat for us in vacationing, and then also with my photography I go to Yellowstone a lot. So I was there in a field of green grass, and the bison were grazing up on the, up on the grass, and the sun was setting. It was a really peaceful time. And as I was sitting in the grass, I started hearing the jingles from Jingle Dress, and it sounded like rain. And this peaceful feeling came over me. And as I was sitting there, 50 or 60 women in jingle dresses came out onto the grass field, and they just started dancing. And to me, in my dream, it seemed like they were dancing with the bison. And as I was sitting there, I really felt like this scene, this dream was healing me. I felt the healing power of the jingles, and it brought peace to me, and it brought hope to me. And so the next morning, that's when I woke up, and I just really felt like it was something that needed to that the world needed. And so I talked to my family about, first I talked to my girls about the dream, and said, wouldn't it be cool if this could happen, if we can make this real. And we sat down and we started talking about how it could happen. And so as we started discussing it, we knew that we couldn't get 50, 60 dancers together because, it was a pandemic. So we just, I told my two daughters, I said, if we can get four dancers that can represent in Navajo way, represent each of the worlds, the four worlds. I said, then we can, we can try and figure out how we can do this project. And so I asked the girls that, to be the two dancers and to try and find two more dancers. And they had really good friends, Sunny and Joannie Begay, that were sisters. And so we invited them over, and we talked to them about the dream and talked to them about what we wanted to try to do. And that's kind of how it started. It just started in a sense of, and it was really hard for us when we had our first photo shoot, because I didn't, I don't do portrait photography. The girls aren't professional models, and we kind of just stumbled and clumsily, put things together on our first photo shoot. And so that's kind of how we got it going, and that's how we started. And then, and our first photo shoot was out at the Bonneville Salt Flats here in Utah. And as we were doing that first photo shoot, we were trying to get to know each other. We were trying to get to know how to pose and how to, it was so funny because I got my camera out and the girls were already in their jingle dresses, and I just said, okay, pose, and they just looked at me like, oh, what do you mean pose? What do you want us to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I said, whatever comes natural, because I didn't know, we didn't think that far, what we were wanting to do. And so that's kind of how it started. We just started, just feeling the spirit, feeling the land, and just trying to feel like, what is it, we're trying, to convey through our photographs. And I'll let Erin kind of talk about that first photo shoot.
You do first. So what was the question you gave me?
The photo shoot.
Oh, so the first photo shoot, there was like lots of, it was really windy. And it was like picking up the salt, and it was kind of, it was definitely different, and it wasn't like you just kind of pull out a camera and you just point and shoot and then we're done. I think it was like maybe like 4 hours shooting, and we didn't really know how to pose, and we didn't know, like, we didn't have the, okay, so take, like, look at this, and then, like, because like later on in the photo shoots, my dad was like, okay, like, look at different photos and see like the kind of way that people might be set up. And so then like the other photo shoots, we kind of already had an idea of like what kind of poses or like, how to like kind of be organized a little bit. But that first one, we're like doing all kinds of, like, we're trying to figure things out, and because it was so windy in some of the shots, we were kind of a little sideways, trying to stand against the wind. And it was just, it was a very unique experience, and it was really fun. I mean, but it was like, it was difficult. And then me and my sister, we finished a marathon like the day before, and so dancing on the salt, and the salt it's grainy, and it has these natural formations, these natural divots in it. And so dancing, it was a test of endurance. But it was really, it was great. It was a good healing, because after doing something so physically exerting, to be able to do a dance like that really, like, I think helped us with our kind of overcoming that, and we weren't as stiff or sore that like most people probably are after a marathon like that.
Yeah, and so when we did the first our first dance out at the Salt Flats, I think that's when everything kind of changed. It kind of made us, after I mean, when they were dancing out in nature, and we had our it was just, it was so spiritual, it was so beautiful to see the dance and hear the jingles. And then for me, it was really overwhelmingly emotional, because I felt like I did when I was in my dream. I felt like the girls were dancing, and their ancestors were with them. I didn't feel like we were alone when we were doing that. And when we were done, we were just like kind of excited, because it felt like after that, we were like, this project needs to be done. It needs to happen. You know, we really felt confident that we were on the path that we were supposed to be on. And like Erin said, and after that, we started really trying to figure out, okay, where is it we want to go, and what is it we want to do?
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and giving the context. When you say a marathon, you're talking about 26-mile run? Oh
Yeah.
my God. And the next day you're dancing in the salt flats in the wind?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
very challenging, but
I can
it
imagine.
also was, I think it was good to do something kind of physical that way, to be able to kind of stretch, and because it's hard, but it was nice to be able to use those muscles and to kind of do it in a way that kind of made us not sore.
Oh, yeah, kind of a cool down exercise.
Yeah.
Nice. I was um, I came up with another question while you were talking about the dream, Eugene. I saw on your website a beautiful photograph of Chief Arvel looking horse, and I was reminded of the white calf buffalo prophecy. There seems to be some similarities. Have you thought about that at all? Is that my own um, connection?
Well, the thing with Erin and I, we actually were out at Standing Rock, and I think that's the one thing that we both experienced together, was that there was a raid on the Asheti camp out there um, in October of 2016, and we were there the day after the raid happened, and that day after that weekend after, they actually organized a healing ceremonial jingle dress dance to happen out on the highway there in North Dakota, and we were honored and privileged to have been in attendance at that time. And the song and the dance that they performed, the ceremony they had, was something they hadn't done since back in Crazy Horse's days. And so I think that for us, that's when we both really felt what the really the healing power of the jingle dress really was about. That's when we really it opened our eyes and our hearts to what the jingle dress really meant. And so from that moment on, we really decided that we wanted to be able to do those things and heal people. We actually had um, 2 years prior to this year in February, we actually had a uh, honor jingle dress dance for the MMIW and also for Standing Rock. And so we did that here, and we had over 60 dancers that came from all over America to come to Utah and to perform during that dance. And so we've been we've been like with Orville, we've had counsel with him, and we really understood where he was coming from and what he believed in, and so we took that to heart. Even though we're not Lakota people, we still understand what they believe in as far as the jingle dress dance, and also knowing that the jingle dress originated in the Ojibwe people. So we taken as Navajo people, we take that counsel from other people to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
That's really beautiful. I love how that tradition began in the 1918 influenza pandemic for a very similar reason. The man whose daughter was ill, he had a dream about the jingle dress and put his sick daughter in it, right? And that tradition has been widely adopted by indigenous nations all over Turtle Island. So it's really it really speaks to the power of that process. So thanks for clarifying that. Um, you and your sister Erin, is it Dion? Is that how you
Yeah.
pronounce your name?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Dion.
Uh-huh. So I'm Erin, and then
Yeah,
yeah, the other one's Dion.
right. And then there's another pair of sisters, Bagahe. Is that how you pronounce their name?
Begay.
Begay.
Yeah.
And all four of you met at Brigham Young University. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and how long have you all been dancing?
Um, Me and my sister, we've been dancing we started out with the hoop dance in elementary school, and then all of us girls, learned the jingle dress with the BYU Living Legends performance group. And so that's where we really learned to kind of expand our cultural knowledge within, I guess, the intertribal dancing, but then also within other tribes as well. So we learned like Yupik from the Alaskan Territory, jingle dress. My sister learned like a smoke dance from the Eastern tribes, and so it was a really great cultural enhancement, and to be able to broaden our knowledge with our Dene culture, and so it was a great opportunity.
Wow, that's really incredible. It seems like Creator just had this vision for all of you, and it really comes across in the photographs. Like so many of them are just so breathtakingly beautiful. I mean, just the natural elements are obviously beautiful, but the four of you and the mission of the project really just was the icing on the cake. Incredible job. Thank you so much for your work. That brings us to the next question. Um, According to the website, you've been to 18 states so far doing this.
Yeah.
And we saw several images from California. Couple are pretty easy to recognize, Yosemite and San Francisco. It looks like some of our North Coast beaches, maybe Mendocino or Humboldt. I couldn't quite tell from the geography. Um, but what other places have you taken photos here in California, and what kind of interactions have you had with any of the tribes here?
So we went into the Sequoia area, and you're right, we went into the West Coast, in outside on the outskirts of the redwood forest in that area. We took pictures there, and then also the redwood forest, and into like you said, San Francisco and Yosemite. Those are the areas that we went to, and one of our goals with our project was to go to native lands, and for us, most of and we wanted to make an impact, and so we really wanted to go into the national parks, because for us, as native people, those were probably the most lands that were taken from native people, because they were the most plush and most most plush lands and vibrant lands that native people were living on. And so for us, that's kind of what we wanted to do. And we knew that they were ancestral lands. And so that's kind of why we did what we did. And and that's why we chose those areas. And as we were doing this project from the very beginning, and I don't know if you want to go into a chronological kind of sense of this project. At the very beginning, we didn't tell anybody what we were doing. The reason why is because it was a pandemic, and we didn't want people to think it was safe to travel. And so at the very beginning, when we were doing our travels, we posted photos, but we posted photos of the girls close up. We didn't tell them where we went and what we did. We just showed photos. And when we did go places, we took our own food, and we camped, and we kind of just stayed to ourselves. We didn't let anybody know where we were going, because we didn't want people to also try to meet up with us. And so that's kind of how we did things. And when we went in through California, I did have a friend who his name is Carlos Gonzalez, who works with the San Francisco Chronicle, and he was there in San Francisco. And so and he's a fellow photographer. He's a journalist photographer. And so he was there with us, and he was gracious enough to take us around San Francisco and show us areas where we could shoot for them, be able to get access to the Golden Gate Bridge and other places that we went to. And so a lot of times when we went out, it was just us, and we would just stick to our plan of eating our own food, and just stopping to gas up, and trying to keep our distance, because of course the biggest thing was the safety of the girls. I didn't want to put them in any situation where they were in harm's way. And so as far as our interaction with California, right now is happening now. We're getting a lot of people from California who saw our images and are asking us to come out to California, or asking us to do these things. And we're just kind of we're biding our time, and trying to figure out, where best our funds could go and take us. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's really good to know. We're very much in love with our indigenous cultures here in California, and we have more tribes than any state in the nation. And here at Return California, our mission has been to amplify those voices, and consistently after our land acknowledgements, we're trying to find actionable items that we can do to put action to the words. And time and again, the tribes tell us that the acknowledgments are great, but what else? Give us our land back. And so Return California was born from that concept. And the federal lands in California are the easiest for that to happen. It shouldn't be such a difficult thing to get it back into tribal stewardship. So that's what our focus is, has been. And so Art Heals is the preface of this project, the Jingle Dress Project. Um, we talked about the origin of the dress. What kind of parallels do you see in the history of it being born out of that 1918 influenza pandemic, and now 100 years later with the COVID pandemic? And what are some of the ways that you witnessed the healing power of art during this project? I can speak to how it made me feel, um, but when you're dancing, are you actively praying at the same time, or can you kind of walk us through that project process at all?
Yeah, so just in the dress itself is a prayer dance, and so you have to have good thoughts. You have to be also to be dancing it, to dance it, and to be able to use um, the power of the healing part of it is that you have to be good in mind, body, and spirit. And so when you're dancing, you are doing it in a prayerful setting, and you typically will have those prayers and it's kind of through the sound of the jingle dress that healing part comes through it. But then also too, within each jingle, like with each cone, is a representation of a prayer. And so more of the traditional dresses will have 365 cones on them to represent a prayer for each day. And so yes, you when you are dancing, it is in a prayerful setting that way, which is, I think, is a very powerful way, because the dance itself is very it's enduring, and it's not the easiest dance, because there's a lot of emphasis on the feet, and then also the calves, and then being able um, to be able to have a good posture, and to have those muscles. It's been kind of funny, because when we're dancing or when we're taking photos, like sometimes we'll take the photo and we'll be shooting for a little bit, and then all of a sudden we have to like stretch our backs out, and we're like trying to really stretch it out, because just with, I think, just posture has just become a little bit more relaxed in this day of age. And so being able to like still like be tall and to have a nice posture for such a long time, it's that's also part of it, because you have respect, and it's also a regal dance. Oh,
Especially the day after a marathon.
yeah.
It's such a wonderful opportunity for me as the photographer to witness this too. I travel with the girls, and when we're in the vehicle and we're driving to places, they're girls, you know, they're laughing, they're having a good time. Some of them are doing their homework, or we're interacting, and just like a road trip, we're doing what we're doing. But you can see the transformation when they put on the regalia and the dresses. You can see them with the dignity and the respect of what it is, and focusing on what our project is about and what we're doing, and knowing that they're dancing, for people who are looking for hope and healing. And so you can see that. And when I'm behind the camera, I can see what Erin's saying, how they respect it so much that they are they look dignified, and they're doing what they, giving respect to the culture.
In the video, it says a single jingle makes no sound.
Mhm.
Um, it's all of them together. It's really, really interesting to know that there's one for each day of the year. Um, I think I read that initially those jingles were made from the top of a tobacco tin. Is that still the practice, or?
Now it's become a lot easier. There's manufacturers that will take the cones and to be able to curl it as well. And then also too, it depends on the dress, but most dresses, because it's quite heavy
Mm,
to have 365 cones on them. So now they're usually about closer to 200,
mm,
300, and it just depends on the region that you are in, because some people practice that by age, or like different parts of like age in life, you have a certain amount of cones. So it's become a little bit different, and there's been other understandings of the jingle dress. So it's different in some parts.
Was there was there any times that you were dancing here in California where really powerful thoughts came to you? Like you say that the prayers are in the jingles and in the reverence for the dance, but you have to be thinking about something. And are there any thoughts that really stood out to you while you were here?
I think it was probably when we were in San Francisco. We were dancing in front of the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was very cold and very windy, and the clouds were like kind of low, but it was a really great photograph moment because of the clouds and the way that the light happened. It really made the Golden Gate Bridge really like bright. But then the way up, because we're in our moccasins, the way up was kind of rocky, and it wasn't like a nice clean paved sidewalk. But then as we were dancing, it was honestly, it was like very very cold, and we're all kind of huddled in this little area before we're dancing to try and like wait out the wind. And then we were just like, okay, well, let's just dance. And then we did. And I think the most gratifying experience, especially when we're dancing, is when I think that there's some kind of extreme weather involved, because it just makes that experience more powerful. Because it would have been easier just to been like, okay, well, let's just call it, and then we're like, just to kind of call it the shot. But then to be able to dance through those experiences, I think makes it more memorable and makes it more of a powerful experience that way. And so it was also very interesting to be able to have the industrial era from the Golden Gate Bridge with the juxtaposition of the vibrant city, and then also to have the traditions of the dance that we were doing with the jingle dress. And so I think it was just a very beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And one of the great things that happened too while we were there is that we actually ran into some Navajos that were from the city, and out of nowhere we this Navajo family showed up at just the same time as we were there, and to be able to have them witness the dance while we were there was made it so much more special too, and being able to find that that unity of of people and being able to share it with them, and they knew the significance of it too. And so, and I think Erin is so right, is that we, as we go out to these places, we have gone into extreme weathers, and we have been able to endure. And the girls, just seeing their dedication of the dance and just the dedication of the project, and the biggest thing for me is that they are the ones kind of doing the hard work when we get there, and it just makes me proud to know that that these are young women that are going to be our future.
Yeah, it really comes across in the photos. And don't sell yourself short. Taking beautiful photos is anything but easy, and you've made so many incredible images. I want to share one here that was especially significant because of one of our recent roundtables was at the tail end of the construction of a bark house in here in Maidu territory. Can you all see this image now on your screen? So I believe this was taken in Miwok territory in Yosemite, in one of the bark houses there. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yes, it was. We it was really wonderful to go to Yosemite, because when we went to Yosemite, of course, the pandemic is happening, and so there weren't that many people there. And we went up into the visitor center area, and there, and everything was basically closed, but there were some native park rangers that were actually there, and it made us feel good because we saw fellow natives there, and so we went up and we started talking to them. And we told them about our project and what we were trying to do, and they actually opened up the Indian Center there, the museum there, to us, and gave us a personal tour of everything that was going on. And they allowed us to do the jingle dress dance right there in their Indian village, and allowed us to do a photo shoot there with the homes that were there, the traditional homes. And so it was amazing to be in that, given that opportunity, and realizing that that's what happened to us when we went out. Things just happened for us. We met the right people, and we were in the right place at the right time. The sun came out when it was storming, and it just was amazing how many things happened along the way that that we feel like was meant for only us.
This image, it actually made me cry when I first saw it because of the relationship to what we've been working on here, and with with the conversation around um, Golden Gate Bridge, um, I thought a lot about the Alcatraz occupation. That was 50 years ago, 52 years ago now. Um, we had a canoe journey that came to Alcatraz in 2019 in honor of that 50th anniversary. Did you have any opportunity to go on a boat or see that or?
No, we actually didn't. We like I said, our time in California was really short. We wanted to be there longer, but as I said, this is just my family and the four girls that are like basically funding this project and doing things. And so we're always like on the road and headed to the next location and just moving along. And it would have been nice to be able to have done other things there, but I think at the point when we were there, I think Alcatraz was still closed, and in fact the whole pier was still closed when we went through. So there were a lot of things that were still closed. It was really surreal to see a vibrant town like San Francisco closed down, but it was the same time, it made us feel good because it made us feel like, wow, this whole city is actually listening.
Mm,
They're actually there as a community for each other and are being able to, stay indoors and wearing their mask and doing what they're supposed to for all humankind, mankind, and to be able to see that, it made us really feel good.
oh, yeah, it was definitely reciprocated by your dancing. It felt very healing. Um, there's a couple images from the website where the dancers are wearing red scarves. Many will immediately recognize those as honoring the missing and murdered Indigenous women, or MMIW. Can you tell us a little bit more about your involvement with MMIW and how the jingle dress and healing work with that?
Cool.
You go.
So for for my family and for myself, um, I actually have a niece on my dad's side that is still missing. She left, and then she has two kids that um, don't know where their mom is, and so we put out the word. There's posters out and everything, and it's been almost 4 years now. We still don't know what happened to her. And then also we just know of family and friends, and like I said, we when we went to Standing Rock, we really got a good feel of what the correlation with the jingle dress dance is for women. Even with this project, when we first started, like I said, we were not asking for funds, we weren't doing anything, but once we got the project was started rolling and going, we actually realized that people wanted to help us, and as Native people, um, we know that even through ceremony, as Navajo people, when we have a ceremony, people will come with gifts. They'll come with food and bring things, or they'll give you money and to help you to get the ceremony going. And in return, they know that they're going to get blessings back because they gave. And so my wife and I, we discussed it for a while because we got so many people wanting to help, and we just felt like it was opportunity for us to not just keep it to ourselves, but we felt like, okay, we need to start helping people and letting them feel blessed too. And so that's when we opened it up, when we started saying, okay, if you want to help, here's our Venmo and here's our PayPal, and that's when we really made a correlation with the world. It really made us feel like this was more than us. Um, we got donations of like $2 from kids saying, my mom has COVID. Please dance for my mom. Um, we had a little girl a sister who gave us $10 and said, my sister died of COVID and she wanted to give you $10, but she didn't have the time. And we've got messages. The girls have got messages too of other Native women saying, I want to return back to the the good way. I want to stop drinking and taking drugs so that I can start jingle dress dancing again. And we had moms who have said, you know, I stopped making my jingle dress for my daughter. You encourage me to and motivate me to be able to finish it now. And there's hundreds of these kinds of messages that have come across, people wanting us to dance for them and for their family and things. And so that's where that correlation of the MMIW came, is that the girls themselves are women, and we wanted to bring awareness to that and other Native issues. Our scarves that we have, that we take for our photo shoots, that the girls wear and dance with, it has a jingle dress dancer on there, and it has MMIW on there, and it has the mascot issue on there, and it has Standing Rock on there, the movement. We have different Native issues that we feel strongly about. And so when we go out and dance, we dance for all those reasons and also for the land. And so for me, MMIW is personal, but at the same time, it's a good time for us to give back to those that are still missing.
Also donating the art piece.
Oh, and also just recently we donated an art piece to the Seattle Indian Health Center. They are raising funds to be able to help their women's shelter in Seattle. And so one of our pieces that everybody loves, it's called MMIW Strength and Unity, is actually, we donated a print for that, and it raised close to $600 for the Seattle area and for the Native people in that community. And so we're trying to do our part to be able to help out in that sense.
It seems like the motivation for the project, Art Heals, really resonated with people. It seems like it is healing people. They're trying to be better and trying to restore the good way. And so you must be very proud of that success. I know we sure are proud of you. Um, you kind of answered the ninth question already. What messages you're hoping resonate from this project? So that's for sure there. What about personal lessons? What have you learned, and how can we, as non-native people, be good relatives and carry these messages um, outside of the circles of people who are already checked into um, indigenous ways?
I think each person has a different message or a different personal message of why they are a part of the project. And it was because we had a show um, in Salt Lake City, so that's kind of close to where we're at. And it was a gallery show, and we had all the artwork that we've kind of done. But we had a photo of each of the dancers, and then also Eugene as the photographer, and we had a little bio, and we asked about why, a little message that they said, and it was really powerful, and it was really great to see or to read each dancer's reason or their purpose of why they're part of the project. I think for me, it was this project has been a sense of healing, but then also a part of that healing has been to really, I guess, become a message or to have the message of healing for the youth for me. And I think a big part of that has really led me to do a little bit more on social media and to make those connections with the youth, because I think a lot of times the youth are very they have lots of influences around them, and I think as they gravitate towards people who are doing good, then they'll do good in their families and in their communities. And I think it's important to relay those messages, because I think you don't have to be doing having like making thousands of dollars or like a really huge impact, but being able to influence a community to do good or to make little changes will make lasting impact, and to be able to change their family, to be able to help moms be inspired to make their children regalia, or to learn about, like, inspire people to teach the younger youth about the traditions and the stories of our people. And then also to help the youth be like, you know what, there's a person that embraces who they are. I want to be like that. And so I think it's been a really great impact, and I think it's been a great narrative, and to be able to interact with the youth.
I think for me, this project entails what I've learned through my lifetime. And as an artist, I realized, like, prior to this project, that when I go to my art shows and I show my landscape photography and I show Native people in the ways I have shown them, I've realized that Native, non-Native, that as they come into my world of photography and they see my images, it touches their hearts. They can feel the spirit of the land there. They can, and I've realized along the way that as all of us look at beautiful things, it opens our minds and our hearts to listen. And it makes us feel like, okay, there's something that we can learn from this. And I think that's the thing that I love about what we're doing, is we've taken music, we've taken art and photography, we've taken song, we've taken tradition and culture, and we put it all together into this project. And I feel like when the images are shot and they're seen, it brings people's heart to a certain level and makes them really think that they are healing, that there's hope in these images, that there's strength in it, and that they can also live, the way that image looks. And I think that's the part that we need to realize as Native people and as people in general, that if we actually speak from our hearts, people will listen. If we keep speaking from our minds and trying to yell and scream at people about, this is what, you're wrong, I'm right, no one's going to come to a compromise. And so that's what I really feel about this. It is healing. And through the comments and through the way people have given us feedback, they feel the same thing I do. And when we have our images of the MMIW that are out there, it's just amazing to me how many people can feel what we feel when we shoot those images. And when we have a great photo of us, the girls standing in the West Coast on the wet rocks and through, I mean, it was freezing cold there.
Always.
They're standing there with no shoe, no moccasins on, and it's just a powerful image, and people can see that and they know it, and they didn't have to be there, but they can feel it within the image. And that's the part that makes people, understand, and it makes people understand where we are coming from, and that we are not doing this just to publicize ourselves, but we're doing it because of the jingle dress.
Art heals.
Yeah.
Very appropriately named. And like it says there in the chat, beautifully stated. I included the Venmo link and the PayPal link in the chat for those of you who are interested in that. Wanted to open it up to questions from the group if we had any. You guys want to raise a hand or just blurt out? I'm not a fan of silence, so I'm going to fill it. Karen, go ahead.
Oh, I don't have a question, but I'm just so appreciative to be here today and to hear your experience, starting with your dream and then your journey to fulfill that dream. I'm just feel so blessed right now to have heard your story. And I'm never going to forget one jingle makes no sound. It takes many. And it's such a community motivator. And thank you so much. It's just beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Emer,
hope-
oh,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, by the way, hello, my name is Joy Holland, and I'm the librarian at the UCLA American Indian Studies Center. But I'm so moved by your art and also the description and all of the kind of chance encounters that happened along the way. And of course, those chance encounters don't feel like chance. But I'm just curious if you've had other artistic experiences where you felt like these kind of chance things were happening, or encounters with other Native people, or just this kind of sign that what you're doing seems to be that you're on the right track because everything is rising to help you. And it seems to me a lot of times art is like that. It's, you create something from inspiration, but it's also sort of supported by the conditions which you're making it in. So I'd love to hear if you've had other experiences like that.
Sure. As we were doing this project, when we started it, I thought to myself, okay, I don't have the right equipment to do portrait photography. I gotta even get lights. I gotta go do all this stuff, you know. And like when we first went out to the Bonneville Flats, we had some lights there, and it got to the point where it just didn't look natural. And in fact, I didn't even know really how to use the lights. You know, it didn't feel comfortable because I'm a landscape photographer and I always capture what nature gives me. And so along the way, since I've been doing landscape a long time, I've learned patience. I've learned that you go to a place, you know, many times until you get one image. You know, you might go out there 60, 70 times and you only get one really good image to sell. And so for me, at the beginning, I started trying to do that. And like Erin said on our first photo shoot, it was like, we were on the middle of the salt lake, you know, and there was salt everywhere, and the wind was blowing, and it was to the point where we couldn't see anything. It was just white. It was a whiteout, you know, and the wind was blowing, and then all of a sudden the sun kind of set, and it was that golden hour, and the clouds opened up, and the lighting that we got on the girls was there. It was there, you know, it was plain, you know, the girls were ready, I was ready, you know, and that's what happened to us as we went out. We would go, and when we went to Yellowstone, it rained all day, you know, and we thought for sure we're not going to get anything. And then as we were driving back from Yellowstone into the Grand Tetons, all of a sudden the clouds opened, and you know, and the rain was hitting them in a certain way, and the rain was glistening off of the sunlight, and it just made the photos that we got there so dramatic. And you know, and those things happen, and everything that we've shot up to this point has been all natural lighting. And so for us, to me, as a landscape photographer, I can tell you, it's such a blessing, because we went to Yellowstone. We didn't have to keep going back and back and back to get a great image. We went there one time and boom, we got it, you know. And to me, that was, and I told the girls, they're just looking at me like, what do you mean, Dad? You know, like, why are you so excited, you know? And I'm like, because, you know, that's like once in a lifetime, you know, you don't get that on one trip, you know. And we went to different areas. That's kind of how it was. And we just kind of, you know, we just kind of just, it was just amazing to just know that nature was on our side, you know.
Creator wanted you to get those great images. Yeah, Emer.
Hi, I'm Emer. I'm from Ireland, but I live here in California on Ohlone territory, in the Bay Area. And this was such serendipity because I'm doing a project. I'm a high school teacher here, and I'm doing a project about the healing of art for communities that have been traumatized with my students. And suddenly this came up, and I showed them today. I showed all my classes your beautiful video. And so they were so excited to see Erin talk and you talk. And it was just in the middle of Silicon Valley. It's very scientific, and a lot of the students are very focused on STEM and sciences, and they were having a hard time understanding how art can heal because they're very logic minded. And I was wondering if you could just, because there's something mysterious, right? I'm an artist, so I know art can heal, but to explain it to the students, it was hard. I was just, but they were relating it to what they learned in history about the ghost dance, saying, you know, that big movement that went viral about the ghost dance years and years ago that ended in that tragedy of Wounded Knee. But that was a dance to heal as well at the worst time. So how is a dance can heal? Can you, I know it's hard to explain, but just to grasp that or have something to say to my students.
I think so. One of the dancers, her name's Joannie, and she is very much like, she's very STEM major. She's majoring in biology. And so she was she was skeptical at the beginning because she looks at images and she's like, wow, they're beautiful. And then she was like, okay, but how can like art heal? Like, you have the human body. We know the scientific, the anatomy, the physiology of the body. So like, how can art and dance heal? Because there's no real like factual science behind it. And she's going to be a doctor. And I think to answer your question, it's not about logic, it's about feeling. And I think that there's a lot of study and there's a lot of studies out there about like the healing power of the mind. And I think that this is what this is how healing brings, is because there's something about the calmness, there's something empowering of feeling the drum. And you can, when you're dancing, there's an overwhelming feeling of just like, I don't quite know how to put it into words, but when you feel it and there's a live drum, you can feel your heartbeat. You can feel the power, like the beat of the drum and how it coincides and synchronizes together. And then you are dancing and you feel the movement of the drum on your feet. And it's just this cycle of emotion. And like, you have it through the five senses, you're seeing it, you're feeling it. And like the only thing that doesn't really happen is taste, but it's just this very empowering feeling of it. And so to be able to, it's just kind of crazy because it's definitely something that's not like you can kind of really scientifically prove, but it's just this sense of belonging that is just overwhelming and very powerful.
So my contribution to your question is that this thing, Joannie was blown away, and I'm sure all the other girls were, when they first saw the images printed. You see it on digital, you see it on Facebook, you see it, you know, on the computer, you see it all over. But once they saw it printed on a very archival watercolor soft paper, a lithograph printed on it, and you see the tones and you see the textures and you see the how the composition, the balance in it, that's what heals you. It's not, it's a rhythm, like Erin was saying. It's a rhythm of the music. It's the positive energy that you're feeling, not just from the song but from the ground, from the land. It absorbs you. And so for me as a photographer, especially a landscape photographer, I don't just go out and snap shots. I'll go out at times and I won't even take a picture because I didn't feel it. And that's the part that is different between a snapshot and a real photo that I want to take. I got to capture the spirit of the land. It's not just, oh, okay, this is beautiful, let me capture a shot. I mean, we all can do that with an iPhone or a phone that we have. We can capture all kinds of images, but not every image can heal. And I think that's the part of it. The part of it is capturing the spirit of the moment and the time and the place. And you can't do that with an equation.
Well said.
Mentally, you can figure it, but it doesn't touch your heart.
Mhm.
And that's the difference between being logical and being healed by art. And that's what I made Joannie a believer. You know, she understands now. She was the first one that said it when she saw the prints. She said, "This is art."
Mm.
And we all stood there and thought, "This is me." And I thought that as the photographer, when I saw them, I thought, did I capture these images? Because they were so beautiful. I couldn't believe that I did this, you know, and the girls couldn't believe that was them, you know, and so in that sense, that's the part, you know, of what the healing part of it is.
Creator made it clear to all of us. I definitely felt it, even though I didn't get to see the lithographs. Just the images online were so beautiful. Inspired me to reach out. I hadn't expected to see Emer here. I wanted to tell a quick story about the two of us. We were brought together because of Indigenous people and ceremony. Um, we are in the process of launching a new organization in the Bay Area called the Irish Diaspora Decolonization Alliance. And we're using our white power and privilege um, to amplify Indigenous voices and share solidarity. And it just occurred to me that the relationship between the Dene and the Irish goes back to the potato famine. Are you all familiar with that
Yeah.
thing? The Navajo Nation, for those that are unfamiliar, sent the modern equivalent to about $3 million to Ireland during the potato famine. And the Navajo Nation, as you know, was hit very hard by COVID, and Ireland returned the favor and made a very large donation to your nation. Um, Ireland also recently gave up their spot in the World Championships for lacrosse, advocating for the Iroquois Confederacy, who has a lacrosse team, and they weren't acknowledged as a nation and couldn't compete. And Ireland went to bat for them and made it so that they could, and then gave them their spot in the international final. So there's a nice little history there with Ireland. Did you want to add anything to that, Emer?
Well, I was going to say it was the Choctaw who had
Oh,
been cleared in the Trail of Tears, and they'd been given some money for land grants, and they turned around in their own suffering during the famine in Ireland to give money to, because they could see Ireland was being colonized and the same thing was happening. So the Irish were very moved that they were next door to England, which had all the power, and but England wouldn't help, and yet the Choctaw Nation helped. So when they saw the Navajo people in trouble, they thought we were given a very special donation that moved us as a people. So they wanted to help the Navajo out, just really on behalf of the Choctaw, because it was all linked together on behalf of people who had been colonized and really ethnically cleansed, and they tried to destroy all cultures under colonization. So to see this dance, that's decolonizing, that's bringing back, you know, the culture to the land and keeping the culture living. So it's very special for me to see those, and for my students were really moved today to see these videos. So it made a difference with the project for them to move forward and create some art that will heal their communities. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for clarifying that too. Got my story twisted. So we're at about an hour. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add before we conclude today? do you have a traditional departure, goodbye, go with God? Is there any kind of tradition for saying goodbye in Dene? See you later.
We usually don't say goodbye. It's kind of just like we'll see you again somewhere down the line. We don't usually say goodbye. So
Have any of you or your sister or the Bigays, have you all been to Alcatraz for any of the sunrise ceremonies?
Mhm.
There's always an incredible number of dancers, and even during the pandemic, they were still allowed because of cultural reasons to bring small groups out there. Um, I can't speak for Emer, but I'd like to bring it to my group and see if there was any interest to bringing you all for one of those ceremonies this year. If you would like to dance on Alcatraz, I think we could make that happen, and that would be a really incredible honor to be able to bring you here.
that would be wonderful because I think that's the one thing that we've been trying to do lately is we're trying, I mean, because the pandemic's kind of getting, a little in control and stuff. So we're trying really hard to be able to try to interact with a little more with communities, not in such a big way, but in some way that we can actually also use it to give back to also. So we would love to have that opportunity if it does come up and if it works out for both groups to be able to do that, because one of the biggest things we have is that we like I said, we went out to California and we've got a lot of people who have wanted us to come back through, and we have other Native groups that have reached out to us that want to do some collaboration, and so we're kind of thinking about those things, but we have to first wait for the girls to get through their education and their responsibilities before we can start really trying to make things work. So
Yeah. Well, Joy just put in there that she'd love to have you all in LA. It'd be cool to see the palm trees. It's very different than what we're used to seeing with jingle dress dancing. But I think if you have an interest, I'd love to see some of the nations from California that have reached out to you. We could facilitate something and maybe put together a whole California tour for you. I know I would love to have you here in the foothills and Lake Tahoe, and there's just so many beautiful places. Joshua Tree and Big Sur. There's just so many magical places here in California that would really benefit from the healing powers of the jingle dress. So thank you all so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to be able to speak with you in this manner, and whatever we can do to help, we'll be here.
okay, well, great. We're thankful for this opportunity, and we're grateful that you can be able to have us too.
Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Take care, y'all.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.